When we work for it, a lot of times when things don't go your way, you're like, I don't get it. Like, I'm doing the work, you know? And like, now that I tied in like my faith into everything, I understand that God, you got to believe in God's timing. Like, God will give you everything at the right time.
He's lost 100 pounds. He's shredded. He's handsome as hell, and he's one of the top trainers in San Diego. I met this guy at the gym here recently. I've been observing him for a long time, just kind of watching how he trains people, and I love his style. Not just in the gym, but the clothes he wears, the whole bit. My new buddy, Luis Montoya, is in the building, and we're just going to talk about, first of all, how you lost the weight. Because people lose 100 pounds a lot, like, not that it's an easy thing, but they don't end up with a body like yours.
Thank you.
So how did you end up 100 pounds overweight, and what was your catalyst for change?
Yeah, great question. This happened roughly around 2011. Just like everybody else, I was in a long-term relationship. You get comfortable. You know, once you get the girl, you start kind of doing the things that you normally do, you know, working out and all that stuff. I just got comfortable. I was working 2 jobs. Life was hitting me pretty hard. I was broke. I was depressed. Sure enough, soon enough, I started, gaining weight. I went from being an athlete to, from weighing like 150 pounds at that time, because I was a pretty thin guy, to weighing 240, 250.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was incredible. You don't realize, how easy it is to get out of shape until you're there.
How long did it take you to gain all that weight?
It took me a few years. I would say maybe about 5-6 years.
Okay. So
yeah.
that's a good conversation point, because you train people, I train people.
Absolutely.
They have this expectation that they're going to lose 100 pounds in 6 months, or whatever length of program that we sell them, right? But it took you clearly 5-6 years to gain the weight. So go ahead from there.
Yeah, it took me 5 to 6 years to gain the weight. I did lose the weight in a year, though, just because I was so determined, and I did have a driving force to get me there. So I did, gain the weight. I was very unhappy. And I always say, I know some people get a little sensitive about weight topics and stuff like that, image and things like that. But I'm a true believer that your body is a reflection of your life, because how you do one thing is how you do everything in life. We were just talking about that, So if you're someone who is fit, like yourself, you're probably thriving in every other area in life, your marriage, work, business, faith, everything, right? So for me, I was in a place where I kind of just let go, and everything started just crumbling. My relationship wasn't the best. Work wasn't the best. Showing up late, just not really caring like I should. A lot of things started happening, but the driving force.
Were you a drinker or anything at the time?
No. But I was, I did grow. I am Hispanic. I did grow up around, drugs, gangs, and all that stuff. The lifestyle, I was able to get out of that. But
to every other Mexican guy out there, he just completely threw every Hispanic guy under the bus there. It's the neighborhood he grew up in, maybe.
It's you know what? So some people might call it a stereotype, but unfortunately, I think a lot of us Hispanics are just raised in environmental places where we don't get the best mentorship.
Well, you grew up around Cisco, right? In the same neighborhood.
Actually, same neighborhood. So we have the same lifestyle. We came from the same lifestyle. A lot of the same, decisions were made. Same friends, same everything. Yeah, we went to school together.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to school together. So for me, I did get out of all that lifestyle around that time that I did gain the weight. But I was in debt. I was literally about to declare bankruptcy. They were garnishing my wages.
Wow.
So I was in a really bad position. Then, my girlfriend at that time, it was a 20-year relationship that we're in. So high school sweethearts and everything. She tells me that she's pregnant, and me being in a position where I can't provide financially, I didn't know what to do, man. So, I kind of hit rock bottom, and I remember at that time, I was literally trying. My priorities just weren't in the right place. I had a muscle car. I'm a gearhead. I love racing, and I grew up, building cars, muscle cars and stuff like that. I had a Camaro. That's where all my money was going to, So my priorities just weren't in the right place. I ended up selling some of the parts of the, of the vehicle. Then I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but my girlfriend's mom, we did live at her house. She was on medication. So I remember I used to steal her medication, try to sell OxyContin to, druggies to try to get some money, try to pay my bills. And I just, after I got the word that I was going to be a dad, I honestly, I was scared. I really didn't feel like I really had the mentorship from my dad to handle all that stuff. The true masculine frame of like, hey, you got to be a man, you got to assume responsibility. And, if you did this, you have to, do A, B, and C. So my dad is a great guy. He did everything that he could to raise me to be the man that I am. And I'm very thankful for that. But, it's just the parenting just wasn't there. And at that point, I just, I was kind of isolated from all my family, my friends and everybody. I just didn't have anybody. So I remember looking at myself in the mirror one day, and I was going into the shower, and I noticed that every single time that I was going into the shower, I was really avoiding the mirror. I would never look at myself in the mirror, and it was because I was embarrassed to face the person that I had become. I had stretch marks, saggy boobs, everything, muffin top, you name it. I'm 5'10". I'm not the tallest guy, but 250 pounds on my frame with no muscle. It's a lot, I was roughly around like 40% body fat or something. Maybe even more. I was a beast. So yeah, I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and I was like, I got to make a change, man. I've always wanted to be a father, and I think it was just to kind of nurture my inner child, kind of like all the stuff that I didn't have. I wanted to give it to my son. So when I found out that I was going to be a dad, I was happy, but I was scared. But I knew I had to make a decision, and I needed to change. So I decided to start with my health and my fitness. So just like anybody else, you start looking at magazines. At that time, the internet wasn't what it is now. There wasn't any Instagram or anything like that. So I remember looking at magazines, and I used to work in a grocery store. I used to be a butcher, right? And we had a men's health magazine. So I used to look through the men's health magazines and get all the little recipes, the little workouts and things like that I would pick up. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start running. And the first thing that I did was like, I set a goal. I was like, I'm going to run down towards that block, just one block a day. And man, I was so heavy that I made it to that stop sign, and I literally had to walk back, and I had to take like pauses because my ankles were so swollen and my knees were so swollen from, the blood flow of running, because I was so heavy. I just couldn't, So I felt so pathetic. The fact that I can't even get it back to my house. But I didn't give up. And my driving force was my son. I just wanted my son to look at me. And I thought to myself, if I'm going to be in the delivery room, I'm probably one of the first faces that he's going to see. And I don't want him to see me this way. I want him to be proud of me. Like, I want my kid to look at me and be like, my dad is Superman. Like, he's that superhero, like how kids are. I mean, every kid looks up to his dad, and I just wanted my son to look at me and be like, look at other like kids and be like, my dad's better than your dad type of thing. Just feel proud, So that was my driving force. The next day, I didn't give up, man. I was just so determined to lose the weight because I just wanted to make my kid proud. So same thing, I went down another block. I just crawled my way back. And soon enough, I remember I went into Vaughn's down the street, and this is in Carlsbad, off of El Camino Real. I would never buy magazines. I was a guy who would like get all the information that I needed and put them back. I was cheap. So I saw this magazine with this fitness model, and I never paid attention to like the fitness magazines, but I saw this guy on there, and I was walking and I saw him and I was like, whoa, like that dude looks impressive. Like, I want to look like that. This dude was like handsome. He had the look, he had the hair, he had the physique and everything, super shredded. And I remember looking at the magazine and I was like browsing through it, and I put it back, and I went to, I kept doing my groceries, But then it was in the back of my head and I was like, I need to buy that magazine. So I bought the magazine, right? And it turned out to be, I'm not sure if you were familiar with David Kimberly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, David. Yeah.
First guy I helped bring David Kimberly up in the business.
Yeah. David was a great guy. Yeah. Got a chance to actually meet him and everything. And
I thought he was one of the best looking men I've ever seen in my entire life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great guy. I bought the magazine and I remember I ended up cutting out the cover and I put it on my wall. And I was like, this is going to be my goal every single day. And I remember I was very intentional with what I was doing. I put it on the wall right next to my bed. So every single time that I would get up, that would be the first thing that I was looking at, right? The law of attraction. I didn't even know that I was doing the law of attraction. I didn't even know what it was at the time, right? I remember I took the magazine and I went to work and I told my friends, my coworkers, I was like, hey, check out this dude. This guy looks amazing. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to be that guy on that magazine one day. And they all laughed at me. Yeah. Cause they're like, Luis, come on, look at you. You're fat, man. You on a magazine looking like that guy. Come on, let's be real. And these are all, I mean, we're all horsing around and everything, guy talk and everything. They're just giving me a hard time, but it hurt my feelings, a little bit, and I was just like, man, I'm going to show these guys. I went back home and that just added a little bit more fuel to my fire, and I started working harder and everything. And soon enough, I started running. I was able to run. It got to the point where I started getting a little too cocky with it. And I went from like my house to the beach, but then I couldn't make it back. So I had to call someone to pick me up, but I was so determined, man. I was so determined. Then at that time, I remember the home workouts were super big, P90X, Insanity and all that stuff. One of my friends was like, he had a bootlegged one and he was like, hey, I don't know if you've seen this, and I was like, oh, that stuff isn't real. I mean, look at those transformations are all Photoshop. And he was like, well, I have a copy of it. If you want it, I'm going to do it. I think you should do it. So he gave it to me and I was like, let's see what this is all about. I put it in, Tony goes on there and like, he's a character. So I started working out. Sure enough, man, I lost 40 pounds, like within like 2 months, and, fast forward a little bit, I'm losing the weight. I'm starting to feel a little better and my birthday comes up and my girlfriend does a surprise party for me. Right. She invites all my friends from high school. They're at the pool and she doesn't tell me that it's a surprise party, obviously. So I get there and I'm on my work clothes and everybody's like, hey, come on in, and I was like embarrassed to take off my shirt in public because I knew I had stretch marks and, it's just like, I was so out of shape and everybody was in shape, man. All the girls were all good looking, all the high school athletes and everything. Like everybody was in shape except me. So I was trying to find a cop out, a way to get out of it. So I was like, you know what? I don't have any trunks. One of my friends was like, I've got one. Here you go. He tosses them at me. And I was just so embarrassed to be seen in public like that I decided not to go inside. And I remember spending my birthday in a bench watching everybody have fun. That point, man, that was one of like the turning points in my life where I was like, I'm not living the life that I deserve. I'm selling myself short and I need to make a drastic change.
So let's talk about that real quick. But he had a why that made him cry. You had a son that was being born that you wanted to be an example for, which is not a shallow reason. You had friends who basically made fun of you and embarrassed you. And then you had the embarrassment of not wanting to take off your shirt in front of other people. So those are really deep and emotional things to attach yourself to that will get you down 100 pounds. Because so many people, as you know, start a exercise program, fitness program with these shallow reasons why. Their why doesn't make them cry. Absolutely. They don't go deep enough in asking themselves, why do I want to do this? Well, I want to look better. Well, why do you want to look better? I want to look better because I think I look like crap. Well, why do you think you look like crap? Well, because I'll never look at myself in the mirror. Why will you never look at yourself in the mirror? So you have to go deeper down this road of discovery is really what it is. Yeah. And then suddenly things will change for you because it becomes real at that point. So you are stacking these things and really giving yourself the fuel. And the main thing was, in addition to all those things, you had this goal this narcissistic goal that we all have of, hey, I want to be on the cover of a magazine one day because I think I look as good as that guy does. I had the same thing. So I understand it very well. Go on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, you said something that is super powerful. I think people don't change because they don't have a big enough reason. And we all do have it. They ignore it. Right. So like for me, when I talk to my clients about that, you know, I draw like an illustration of like a little flame, little fire and a little man. Right. And that's them right now. The fire is not big enough for them to make a change. That flame has to be big enough of a painful, you know, situation or driving force for them to want to change. That's what it was with me. You know, I was stacking up that flame so damn big that I was like, I need to make a change. I don't want to live like this, you know? So yeah. So you
start running. That's one of the changes you made, right? Yeah. You made it only a block, had to walk back, made it further each time. So we're trying to build something for someone watching right now. Like what could they do? So what was the next big thing? Where did nutrition come in and weightlifting and all that sort of stuff?
I started doing the research. So I went on the internet. I started looking up like meal plans and things like that, you know, men's health magazines. I'd reached out to a couple YouTube coaches. At this time, there wasn't any like online coaches like there is now. You got to think this was like 12 years ago. So it was very, very new. I found someone online and I reached out and I just couldn't afford them, you know, because I was in debt, you know. So I was like, okay, let me just try to look up successful people who have the same results that I want. What are they doing? You know, so I started eating a little cleaner. It wasn't the best diet, but I was able to lose 100 pounds in 1 year of just being consistent.
With no bypass surgery, no lap band, no nothing. Okay.
Nothing. Just hard work, dedication, and a driving force. So yeah, and if I back up a little bit more to that, you know, I was doing the workouts. So I had the home workouts. That's what I was doing. You know, I was working out twice a day for a whole year.
With P90X?
With P90X, with Tony. Yeah. I did 11 rounds of...
Good job, Tony.
I did 11 rounds of P90X. And, you know, I think it was like 4 months into the pregnancy. I remember waking up one day and I hear my girlfriend crying in the bathroom. It was early in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I was kind of confused of what was going on. So the door was kind of, you know, halfway shut. And I can see her on the floor. So I was like, man, I didn't even know what I was going to walk into. So I opened the door and there's blood all over the place, man. Yeah. There's blood all over the place and she's crying. And I remember she just looked at me. I'll never forget that look, man. And she was just so confused and there was blood. And I was like, what happened? And she's like, I don't know what's going on, you know? And I knew exactly what was happening. And she was having a miscarriage. And like to this day, it still affects me. Yeah. It's something that you never get over, you know? So we rushed her to the hospital. Unfortunately, I was not the best man that I could be for that girl. Unfortunately, I didn't have my priorities straight. I was literally about to declare bankruptcy. I was about to get fired. So instead of saying, you know, screw my work, I'm going to be there for my girl, I decided to go to work because I didn't want to get fired. All right. And that had really affected my relationship. Yeah. So I went to work. I explained the situation. I went to the hospital and I showed up after, you know, the surgery was already done and everything. And yeah, unfortunately we lost a child. And at that point, man, I was just kind of like, man, like my driving force, that was my fuel to make a change, is gone. Like, what do I do now? Then same thing. This is like around the time, like, man, life was just hitting me so hard, like so damn hard. And I remember that relationship ended up, it was, you know, on and off, like just, we're always arguing. It ended up being toxic. And a lot of it, I'm a firm believer that men should take accountability for their actions. And a lot of the times not all the times, but the majority of the times when relationships do fail, it falls back to the man, you know, because you're not being masculine. You're not a leader. You're not leading. You're not being assertive. You're not being the protector and things like that. This
conversation last night with my son.
Yeah, absolutely. So I blame myself for that failure of that relationship. I ended up moving in with my parents I ended up leaving that house and I didn't have anywhere to go, man. Sure enough, there was probably like a week of like, I couldn't go back to my parents' house at that time because I didn't have a relationship with them. I haven't spoken to them for like about a year and a half, just didn't have anybody. So I was sleeping on parks, you know, I was homeless. And, I finally reached out to my parents, found out that I was sleeping on the streets. So they ended up taking me in. And I remember I was just like, man, I was so depressed. I was like, I had the loss of a child, loss of a relationship. I couldn't even like look at my parents. Every single time that I look at my parents, it was an argument. You know, just life was hitting me so hard, man. And stress, depression, anxiety. And I remember I was driving my car, and every single day that I would come home, I was having suicidal thoughts. I was like, how can I end this? Like, I don't want to live, you know? And I remember like, I had a really fast car. It was a 700 horsepower car. I was having like flash forwards of like just evil thoughts. And like, I truly think that was the devil, like really like in my ear, you know? I was like, I can just crash my car against the divider right now, just floor it. And I was such in a toxic place that I started searching on Google how to commit suicide. Like, what's the easiest way to commit suicide without the pain?
Right.
You know? And I remember this one night I was determined to do it. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to slice my wrist. I went in my mom's bathroom and I went in there, man. And I took the knife, and I remember I was just like, I was looking at myself in the mirror, just having that conversation with myself without any words, just looking at myself. And I remember I put the knife on my wrist, and I was just crying, man, just crying. I didn't have a relationship with God at this time. And that was the first time in a very long time that I literally spoke to God. I broke down on my knees and I was like, God, if there is a God, I don't know what's happening, why this is happening to me, what is the purpose? But if you feel like you need me to go through this, just please help me get through it, because I can't do this alone. And at that moment, man, I surrendered my life to Jesus, you know? Sure enough, at that moment, I got a flash forward of what could be me committing suicide, my mom walking in there, seeing that, like the pain that I was going to cause her. And a lot of people don't think about that, you know, because when depression it's like a cancer, man. You know, a lot of people don't think about the consequences of, you know, the things that your actions, how that affects the people around you, you know? So I don't know, man. I think that was the Holy Spirit that literally picked me up. And sure enough, I hadn't, you know, I was working out at that time, but I wasn't in the gym. I started skipping workouts, but slowly I started getting back to the gym. The pain was a little less. And sure enough, man, I ended up losing the 100 pounds, you know. At that time, I remember men's physique was like really popular, right? So I started researching, and I still lived with my parents. I was helping them out financially and stuff like that because they were like in a, you know, a little bit in a bind. So I had this new goal. I lost 100 pounds, but I was like skinny. I was like surfer skinny. At that time, you know, that was the look. You know, everybody wanted abs, but I was like, man, I want some muscle. You know, I look like a little teenager. So I saw men's physique, started researching, and I found a good friend of mine, David Lamb, down in San Diego at World's Gym. I contacted him. I ended up contacting David. I found David. I researched the magazine. I found his name. I found him on Facebook, and I reached out to David. And at this time, he was doing a lot of the acting, a lot of, you know, he was all over the place. And he was like,
David Kimberly?
Yeah, David Kimberly. You know, I think he was doing some acting and things like that. He was traveling a lot. And he was like, dude, thank you so much for reaching out. But I asked him, I was like, do you do any type of coaching or anything like that? Like, you know, can you help me out with this? Like, I want to compete. And he was like, I don't have the time to coach right now. I'm not coaching anybody because, you know, I'm traveling a lot. But there's a really good friend of mine, David Lamb, down in San Diego. Reached out to him. Sure enough, I reached out to David. David was like, hey, you know, he called me on the phone. He was like, how serious are you about doing this? I'm like, dude, I lost 100 pounds. Like, I am serious. I just want to get up on stage. He was like, okay, cool. Hooked me up with a trainer. Did my first bodybuilding show, and then did another one. And yeah, man, it's been incredible. I ended up fast forwarding a little bit into that. You know, I started kind of personal training people like in my area were kind of like asking like, hey, do you do any type of personal training or anything like that? And I was like, not really. Like, I'm not certified or anything like that. And they're like, I don't care. Just train me. And I was like, I don't even know what to charge, you know? So we figured out a price and everything. I started training people, and, you know, I was documenting everything. My whole success, like my whole fitness journey was documented on social media from the start, which was very essential to my success, you know, because people saw like what I went through. And sure enough, man, I remember how I got into like the fitness modeling thing was actually kind of funny, because after like my third or fourth physique show, I went up to Irvine for one of the competitions, and one of the guys that was spray tanning me, you know, he was spray tanning me, and he like paused and he looked at me and he was like, hey, you ever thought about like doing fitness modeling? And I kind of laughed because I thought about the magazine. And I was like, you know, like, yeah, but like, not really. Like, why? Like, what do you mean? He's like, dude, I think you should really do it. Like, you're a good looking kid. Like, you know, you've got the physique. You're not like overly muscular like a lot of these guys. You have a very attainable, like, physique that a lot of guys might want, you know, like that men's health look. And I was like, how do I even get started in that? He was like, well, dude, you gotta find photographers in your area. Like, you know? So sure enough, he connected me with my first photographer, and it was fun. It was fun. It was a lot better to me than competing. Competing was always stressful. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I did a lot of the competing just because it was a goal at first. You know, I wanted to kind of achieve the goal. Then a lot of it was kind of like, I feel like everybody was like, my whole followers were so invested in me like competing and getting my pro card that I almost kind of felt forced to do it, because everybody was like, dude, you look good. When is the next show? And I was like, well, there's another one coming up in a couple months. Maybe I should just sign up. But it was always stressful, man. I never really my hat's off to everybody that competes, because it's not easy. But I just didn't like the fact that you work so hard for months to be up on stage for 5 seconds. Then you put your fate in the hands of 5 judges, you know? And I'm not going to get into the politics and any of that, but it was very stressful, man. It was very stressful. But the photo shoots, you know all about it, man. It's fun, you know? The photographer's like, dude, just work out, have fun. We'll throw on some music, and I'll just pretend like I'm not here, you know? And start snapping photos. I did my first photo shoot, and it came out amazing. And I asked him, I was very intentional, always very intentional with what I was doing. I asked him, I was like, I want to be on a magazine cover. Do you have any idea of like how I can get there? And he was like, well, if you want to be on a cover, you have to shoot with photographers that shoot for magazines, right? This time, Greg Plitt was huge. He was taking over the market, and he was just so inspirational all over YouTube and everything. And I remember I came across him, right? And I used to watch every single time, you know, because I've always dealt with depression. Depression is a big topic, but I don't really believe in depression anymore, because I've learned how to control my mind. I do believe that whatever you decide to give power to your mind, your mind will feed off of it, right? So just don't allow it anymore, because I shifted my mindset and everything. So I'm in control of my thoughts for the most part. But around that time, I was dealing with a lot of anxiety, depression, and things like that. And Greg literally helped me through it, man. He was a lifesaver. He had such a big role in my, you know, career, in my life, that I literally felt like he was an angel sent to me. There's a lot of times where I still had those suicidal thoughts, and he got me through it. And it's weird, you know, because I'm sure you felt this, even when you go to church, or, you know, you talk, and maybe you've gotten this from your followers. A lot of people, when you hear the message, it's almost like you feel like they're talking to you. You're like, man, like this guy understands what I'm going through, you know? So a lot of the stuff that Greg was preaching, it was very relatable to me. And I'm never going to forget this, man, because I actually have a tattoo that's a tribute to Greg, right? And it's a ticking clock. There's this YouTube video that I came across one day when I was at my lowest. And he used to always work out at like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. And there's this video with the night vision where he's holding a little time clock, and he's like, second by second, you lose the opportunity to become the man that you were destined to become. Take control of your life. Something along those words. And man, that hit me so hard. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? You know? And it's weird, because a lot of people, I do believe that some people are just wired different. We call it the 1%. And for me, it's not egotistic or anything like that to separate yourself, but some people are just wired different. They think different. Like for me, it's like, are you living or are you truly living with a purpose? You know what I'm saying? At that moment, I felt like I literally woke something inside of me, and I was like every second that does pass is crucial. What am I doing? Like, I'm only here for a certain amount of time. Like, I need to live my best life, and I'm not going to waste any second. So sure enough, man, I started like working out even harder and everything. And, I ended up getting connected with, going back to that photo shoot. The photographer was like, hey, there's this really good photographer, Noel Degata. Yeah. And look him up. And I remember going on, the reason I brought up Greg is because a lot of people don't understand. A lot of the information is out there. Everybody's like, they want instant gratification. They want the results so fast. They don't want to work for it. They want everything handed to them, but you have to do the work. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I wanted to be published. So I went out there and I researched all the proper information that I needed at that time to make that happen. Greg Plitt put a YouTube video still out there where literally, and it's a lot. I mean, some of the publication stuff has changed because a lot of it is digital now and things like that. But a lot of it still kind of applies. He made a YouTube video on how to get published. He was like, you go to Barnes and Nobles, you pick out the magazines that you want to be on. I remember doing that. Look at the editors, the photographers, look them up on social media, establish a relationship, set up photo shoots, email the photos and things like that. And if you're not going to hear from them, just keep emailing, establish a relationship on social media until they know who you are, get in front of them, and so, right? It's all about relationships. Sure enough, I did that. So I remember I ended up booking a photo shoot, my first big photo shoot with Noel. And Noel, I mean, I'm sure he shot you. He shot the best of the best, Phil Heath, The Rock, amazing people. And he was really good friends with David. I think they were roommates, because I know Noel very, very good. He's a really close friend of mine. And I was still with my girlfriend, that same girl. And she was there through the whole journey, man. I remember I was sitting outside the studio and I was like, shit, is this really happening? Like, am I really here? Am I really about to shoot with the same photographer that shot that magazine cover? It was unreal. Again, the law of attraction, right? I didn't understand what was happening, but now that I look back, it's crazy how it all happened the way it was supposed to happen. And I remember going in there, I did my first photo shoot. It came out fantastic. I was in great shape. And, I've always had such a great energy. I understand relationships. And just for me, the energy that you put out is the energy that you're going to receive. So I was, I hit it off with Noel. I was helping him with the equipment. Because I remember Greg saying the same thing, a lot of these fitness models are like little divas, be the guy who picks up the equipment, help them out, establish that relationship, be very helpful and things like that. And I did that. And I established a friendship with Noel. And I told him the same thing. I was like, hey, man, I want to be on a magazine. Like, can you help me out with that? And he was shooting for, I don't know if it was Muscle Insider or Muscle and Fitness, one of those big magazines. But he's like, you know what, dude, I'll see what I can do for you. But I want you to keep on shooting with the right photographers. Hit up Michael, Michael Newvick's nephew. I can never pronounce that. Mm-hmm. So I did my first photo shoot. I scheduled the photo shoot with him, came out, dude, I was going so hard in my fitness journey that I remember seeing a lot of you guys. I remember seeing you on YouTube, which is crazy that I'm actually sitting here with you. I remember around this time, I remember, seeing six-pack abs videos that you would put on YouTube and everything, and seeing a lot of a lot of fitness models that were in shape all year long. And you know how people say, oh, it's not possible to stay in shape all year long. It's definitely possible. It's just a matter of what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to put yourself through? And is it sustainable? Are you willing to live a lifestyle? Because that's what it is. I understand that now, that it's just a lifestyle. You get what I'm saying? You can look as good as you want to look, but it's really up to you how much you want to push that. So I gave myself the goal. I was like, I'm going to stay in shape all year long. And man, every single photo shoot, you already know, the more that you deplete, the more that you start digging in, the better you start looking. So that second photo shoot, I came in like the best shape of my life, at that time. And I think he saw one of those photos that I did with Michael. And I showed up and Michael was like, whoa, like, dude, you look incredible. And I remember talking about there's a really a good friend of mine from the Netherlands. I was like, man, I wanted to shoot with you. Well, Noel told me about you, but Mark, I forget his last name. He shot with you and I saw the shot that you did with him. And like, he's like, dude, you look, no offense to Mark, he looks amazing. But he's like, dude, I think you look even better than him right now. Like, you're just so damn like in shape, like it looks amazing. So we did the photo shoot and everything. And sure enough, man, I just kept on establishing relationships with people, and I did, I kept shooting with a lot of other top photographers. And after doing like 3 photo shoots, I ended up getting the images back from Noel, right? And at this time, this is when they started garnishing my wages. And I was like, man, what am I going to do? I went on social media. I got those images. I went into work and I showed all the guys at work. I was like, hey guys, check out these photos. They look amazing. And everybody's like, dude, you look like those dudes on the magazines. My boss was like, he pulled me to the side. He was like, Luis, you're 27 years old. What are you doing here, man? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. I'm like, what, are you trying to fire me or what? He's like, I'm not trying to fire you, but I'm just trying to shift your perspective. Look at all the guys around here, man. You're a butcher. All the other butchers here, they're 60 years old, 50 years old, retired, about to retire. Like, you're wasting your life here, man. I really think you have something going with this fitness stuff, man. I don't think you should be here. So I was like, went home, told my girlfriend, I was like, I'm going to quit my job. She's like, what do you mean you're in debt? You can't quit your job. I was like, I'll figure it out. I was like, we only get one life. I want to make sure that I live it right. So I remember going back the next day and I was like, hey, thank you for everything. I'm going to put it in my 2 weeks notice. And he's like, I respect that. Sure enough, man. I was thinking to myself, okay, what's the worst that can happen? So I'm homeless. I've been homeless. That doesn't scare me. I'll figure it out, right? So I was like, okay, worst comes to worst, I'll go on unemployment. And I remember I went on unemployment. They only gave me like 2 months worth of pay. I don't know why, but I was like, okay, so that's out of the window. What am I going to do now? And man, I remember I ended up, I was really embarrassed to do this, but I had to do what I had to do at this point. I went on food stamps, right? And man, looking at my girl at that time, having to be on food stamps, it was rough. I remember going to the grocery store one day and like we're recycling our cans. I was struggling, man. We were recycling our cans and we went to, recycle the cans and we went inside the grocery store because we're going to turn the ticket. And there's this lady who came up to us and she was like, hey, I just want to tell you guys that God loves you and whatever you're going through right now, just stay strong. Here's $20. I hope that helps. And I was like, I looked at her and I was like, damn, do we look homeless? Like at that point, again, like now that I understand masculinity and everything, I was like, I was failing her as a man, like I'm supposed to be the protector, the provider. And I took the images that Noel gave me. And around this time, this is when online coaching started kind of being a thing. I saw a lot of trainers were doing that. I posted this on social media and I was like, I'm doing nutrition plans for $50. If anybody wants to buy one, DM me, right? And sure enough, man, I had 200 people sign up. First time ever attempting, coaching. So I made about like $2,000 or something like that, right? Overnight. I remember like my bank account just went from negative to positive. And I was like, holy crap, like this is really a thing. I remember looking at my girl and I was like, I think I've got something going here. Like I've never made that much money overnight. Not even like, that was like a month's pay or something at my old job, And she was like, oh, that's incredible. So I started doing challenges and stuff like that. Then slowly I started, getting back on my feet. I ended up selling the car. I ended up getting out of that whole bankruptcy stuff and life started looking a little better, man. And going back to the photo shoots, it's interesting because, we're talking about instant gratification. People, want, results fast. They want, and even us, man, like when we work for it, a lot of times when things don't go your way, you're like, I don't get it. Like I'm doing the work, and like now that I tied in like my faith into everything, I understand that God, you got to believe in God's timing. Like God will give you everything at the right time, And sometimes when you don't get what you want, even though you're putting in the work, it's because you're not ready for it, And for me, it wasn't physique wise. Like I had the physique. I think I was just starting to get a little cocky with my social media presence, the success overnight and things like that, that if I would have gotten a magazine cover, man, my head would have exploded, And sure enough, man, I didn't get a magazine cover because I thought to myself, I was like, oh, after these 3 shoots, I'm definitely going to get a cover, man. It took me 2 years later to finally get my first cover, And I remember I started getting into coaching, got really into personal training. There was around this time, they were doing private personal training, like self-made and all those gyms. So they opened one down the street, and one of my influencer friends were like, hey, we're signing up. I think you should do this. Like, I think it would be fantastic for you. Right. And I've always had that resilience mindset of like wanting to achieve financial freedom, not necessarily for the, superficial or material things. It's just for me, it's like, I want freedom for my family, Like I understand that, I don't believe that money is evil. I think if you give someone who's an evil person more money, they're just going to be more evil. If you give someone more money who's actually, a good, kind-hearted person, they're going to find good things to do with it, right? And I just didn't want my family to be struggling like they were. So I understand, like, I want to be that man in my family who changes the financial tree forever. Like, it's my duty as a man. I'm not the oldest in my family, but I understand, like, God has that mission for me. Like, I am the guy who's supposed to change all that, right? I've always been the leader in my family, and my family depends on me. Not just my family, my followers, my friends, my acquaintances. There's a lot of people, like, you come to a point where you start realizing it's no longer about you. There's so many other people that are like, so many other people that are depending on you, man. I remember around like this whole journey, I had this kid that I've never met in my life ever. Apparently he was following me on social media, and around the time that I was competing, and his sister ended up calling me one day, and they're like, hey, look, listen, my brother is in a wheelchair. And, around this time I was doing like the home workouts, and I was really big. I was one of the top coaches for like Beachbody and stuff like that. And they were like, you've never met him before. He follows you he's friends with you on Facebook. And he's actually on life support right now. And, I don't think he has much time, but he always talks about you. He always talks about how he wants your physique, and like you motivate him so much. Would you please just talk to him? And I was like, absolutely. Absolutely. So I ended up having a conversation with them and everything. And like, it made his day and everything. And I was just like, it's crazy. Like the next morning they called me and they're like, hey, he just passed. And I just wanted to thank you for that. Like, you're like, I really genuinely want to thank you for taking the time to do that. And I was like, no, absolutely. It was my pleasure. But man, you don't realize the impact that we have in other people, especially through social media. Like, there's people that literally look up to us, I hate the word influencer, but everybody, whether you have a platform or not, you influence people with the way you talk, the way you move, the way you carry yourself. Your actions, speak louder than words, So you have to be very mindful, especially when we have a platform like ours. I'm very mindful of like the way that I present myself. Sometimes I'll say things that I'll go back and I'm like, I probably shouldn't have said that, But I understand my mission in life, and my mission in life is to help people, and I do it through fitness. I do understand that God gave me that power and that platform. And even though fitness is a small little stepping stone in my journey, there's so much more to me, man, than just fitness. Like now I'm getting into like life coaching, business. I'm tying in my faith into my message and everything. So, maybe the goal is to become a motivational speaker. I'm actually working on writing a book specifically for men, because I feel like masculinity is something that it's really lacking right now in the West. And there's a lot of good men out there, that get overlooked. A lot of good men that just haven't figured it out. They don't know how to attract the right partner in their life. They don't have direction. There's guys still in their 40s, 50s trying to find their purpose. You know, and it's interesting because that topic can go so many different ways when you talk about purpose. You know, for me, I say that you should find something that you're passionate about. That's not really your purpose. Your purpose sometimes finds you, you know? And for me, I thought it was fitness, but it's not. My purpose is to help people. And there's so many layers through that, you know? That can be through social media. That can be through public speaking. That can be from writing a book, a YouTube video, or just how I have a conversation with someone at McDonald's, you know? So it's interesting.
Fascinating story, man. It's encouraging to so many people out there that think it's not possible, especially when they're told, oh, you'll never do that because look at you right now. You'll never do that. Look at the house you live in. You'll never do that. Look at the family you come from. There's so many different reasons why. And I have a similar story where someone told me, you'll never be on the cover of a magazine. There's hardly few people that have done it more times than me. And a lot of what Greg Plitt taught you, so you said something a while back that I think it's important to kind of bring back up again. You said you went online looking for a way to kill yourself that was painless. And it's absolutely impossible because you had mentioned the people that are left behind are going to be experiencing that pain. You could inhale gas and not feel anything and go to sleep night, bye-bye. But then there's this whole host of people left behind. So I've been thinking, like, if anyone is struggling right now with suicidal thoughts, depression, or anything like that, reach out to a hotline, man. Don't think that you're alone. Don't think there's anything wrong with you. Just realize that you're in a place that needs some professional conversation around to help you realize that suicide honestly is a permanent problem or a permanent solution to a temporary problem. That's all it is. So I've noticed a guy that you have in the gym that you're training. He works hard, man. I sit up there and do my cardio, and I even came down and said something to him one day because I want him to realize that he is having influence on me. Yeah. Right? That you see a guy who's completely the polar opposite of me, but I'm up there going, look at my lazy ass complaining about walking on this thing. And I'm what a lot of people aspire to be because they put me on the magazine covers to give that image to people. And then this guy's down there sweating hard, just taking breaths, man, to get the next rep in. So tell me a little bit about his story and where you plan on taking him.
Yeah. I'm not going to get too detailed about his personal life, because obviously, you know, but I've actually known him for about 10 years. 10 years. He's an amazing individual.
He's got how much weight he needs to lose to give context for people?
So we need to lose roughly a good start would be 200 pounds. Yeah. You know, 200 pounds to try to get him back to where I would like him to be at his best. But we're chipping away. We've lost, I think 130 pounds already. Wow. Yeah. 130 pounds. So this is a past client. I've had a relationship with him for roughly about, I would say 6 years. And, you know, it's interesting. This is why mentorship is so important, you know, having accountability. I worked with him 6 years ago. I got him to lose about 80 to 90 pounds, looked great, went on his own. And unfortunately, life hit. You know, he went through a divorce, just business started, just picking up and things like that. And he just, just like everybody else, I hate to say it, but we start making excuses in the fact that, your health is just not as important as your work or other things. I always say, take care of yourself first if you want to take care of others. So he ended up regaining a lot of the weight back and actually doubled the weight, so we reconnected about a year maybe 8 months ago. We got him down to, I think we lost like 120 pounds or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but, we're setting small goals, 25 pounds, 25 pounds. Okay, great. Let's go for another 25 pounds. It's interesting because when you start a fitness journey, a lot of the people, they focus on the wrong things. I think it's great to have direction, right? So for example, if we're taking someone who's 300 pounds and they want to lose 150 pounds, right? They're like, I need to lose 150 pounds. Just the thought of losing 150 pounds it's crazy. They think it's unattainable. Okay, great. You need to lose 150 pounds, but let's start focusing on building habits, changing the way you eat, being more mindful about, daily exercise, the way you think and all those little things. And let's start setting a small goal, maybe losing 1 to 2 pounds a week, right? Let's knock off those first 25 pounds. Once start getting small wins. And it's interesting how that works, because once you start accumulating small wins, your mindset starts changing. You're like, I'm actually doing this. I lost 50 pounds. I lost 75 pounds. I lost 100 pounds. You get what I'm saying? Most people give up on their fitness goals, on life, because of the failures. It's a narrative that they built in their head so many times. It's not going to change. I mean, how is this going to work? That other last, nutrition plan that I bought didn't work. This guy's probably just trying to take my money. They started focusing on all the reasons why they're going to fail, instead of focusing on all the reasons on why they need to do this and how this can change their life. I have that conversation, the initial consultation with my clients, like you were saying, start digging into the pain. Why do you feel this way? Okay, how would this change? How would this make you feel? What if we were to get you out of the blood pressure pills? How would that change your life? Oh man, it would be fantastic. I would be living such a better life. What would that do for your marriage? What would that do for your kids? Imagine the time that you can have with your kids. I always dig into the kids, because the kids is the biggest factor, man. I always tell people, like, guys that are like overweight, because I do work with the majority of guys. I always tell them, I have really powerful conversations, and I tell them, especially like when they have diabetes, because my father has diabetes. And I tell him my father unfortunately didn't want to take care of himself, and he ended up losing his eyesight, so he's blind now. And I always bring that up, and I tell him, I was like, do you understand that you can lose your arm? Like, this is fatal. Like, you can die. You have a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old daughter. How would you feel knowing, like, if you were to get a heart attack, how would you feel knowing that someone else is going to another man is going to walk your daughter down the aisle? Do you want that? And they're like, oh no, man. Like that hits. As a father, I don't want anybody else to walk my daughter the most powerful, important day of her life, of my life. I don't want someone else taking my place. You know what I'm saying? So you got to have those conversations with yourself. Those are tough conversations to have with yourself, but I've had them with my own self. That's what got me to change. When I was looking at myself in the mirror, how is this going to affect my life? Do I want to live like this? And sometimes, man, you take so many L's that you have to hit rock bottom. It's just like an addict. You can take them to rehab. They're not going to change. They're going to want to change when they truly want to change. They got to hit that rock bottom. Yeah. They got to have a driving force.
You don't have to hit rock bottom. People just choose to, because they call themselves busy or whatever excuse, like you had mentioned, that they come up with to not do something like this. But we live to intervene in people's lives before they hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
So the opportunity is there to work with you. It's there to work with me. It's there to work with a million other people out there in the world who you connect with that have the information based upon their unique experience, like you shared yours here with us today, which is fascinating, by the way. So do you have kids now?
I don't have kids, okay. But that is my biggest desire. Yeah. I want a lot of kids, man. Yeah. It's funny because I tell my girlfriend, I tell her, I'm like, I want 10 kids. And she's like, 10 kids? I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I want to replicate myself. Like, we all want to leave our legacy, but for me, I think it's a bigger purpose, man. And people kind of think I'm crazy about this, but I work so hard to become the man that I am now. And, I've got a long ways to go still. I'm a work in progress.
You're how old now?
I am 38.
Okay.
I'm 38. But I just think to myself, I understand, again, not to sound arrogant or anything like that. I do understand that I'm not your average guy. My mindset, and everything, like the mindset that I have, if I can replicate myself in my children, in the people that I surround myself with, that's my way of changing the world, because my intentions are good, so. And I am, I consider myself a godly man, so if I can have 10 kids, maybe not 10, maybe 3 or 4, but you get what I'm saying. It's my way.
By the way, but yeah, it is something to take note of, the fact that the most influential person in a child's life is the same-sex parent. And you had mentioned being Superman and being that guy, you know, as a father of both a daughter and a son, reflecting on the conversations that I have and looking at my life throughout the years, I know that I've been that example to them. Even though I'm not perfect, I'm not claiming to be. I've treated their mom wrong in certain times and not been the best example. But overall, I'm very proud to say that, yeah, I am, man. And the other night, you know, this is a funny story. So my son came over to work out. He left. He was doing his laundry. But I think about this in the terms of being capable as a man and what we should be able to do. Mm-hmm. I talked one time about if there was a zombie apocalypse, I could run home and be home and be safe. No problem. I'm winning the battle. Yeah. So the other night, my son works out, does his laundry, he leaves, say goodnight. And just as a Christian thing, I've prayed for my son every single day since the day he was born, the second he was born, and my daughter as well. Very proud of that. But so he leaves and I go to bed. I go to bed at 8 o'clock every night, like clockwork. I'm sleeping by 8:06.
Amazing.
8:15, I'm in REM, deep sleep. So I'm out like a light, just completely gone. And then all of a sudden I sense something and I open my eyes and I see a flashlight from a phone shining through my window. Luis, I without thought, I don't remember thinking, what should I do? Without thought, I was up, flew over my wife, over the dog, over the pillows that were on the floor that we put on the bed for show, landed, boom, bust out the door, come down the hallway. By now, my son hears that my feet hit. I didn't know, but I came around the corner and it was my son. Yeah. He had come back because he forgot his laundry. I thought I was an intruder and I was going out there to fight. And I came back to bed and my wife reached over and grabbed me and she said, "Thank you for protecting me." And I thought to myself, how many guys my age could do that? How many guys 50, 40, 30, or even 20? You know, you line me and you up in the gym that we go to. We're, you know, you're 38 now, I'm 60. We do stand out. And you should be proud of that. And there's no reason not to be. And for the haters that we get online, that talk trash about us and try and bring us down from that, that's why you have to have those people in your life, like you had mentioned, church and different communities that help build you up and esteem you to the point where they keep your ego in check. Because like you said, if you would have gotten on a magazine earlier, just like you know, you don't have millions of dollars right now. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if you don't, it's probably because maybe God is just not saying, you're just not ready for it yet. Yeah. Trust me, I know. You'll go get another muscle car. You'll be stupid like you were before. I know. So we have to trust in the fact that those people in our life are there to help guide us. And you're in a good place. You know, I love where you're at. I love Awaken Church. I love Pastor Matt Hubbard. You know, Jimmy Garcia. Yep. Little Jimmy's a buddy I've known for over 3 decades. I went to their men's prayer thing for probably a year. So yeah, and just stay surrounded by those people, because when your son does come, and with all of what you're learning, sounds like maybe there's a little bit of Andrew Tate in there as well. Yeah. But you know, you're going to have this information that is necessary to raise, you know,
absolutely strong.
Yeah. Someone who's going to really have an impact on this life. And it goes back to Greg Plitt, right? Greg Plitt still, one of his videos came up the other day and I knew Greg. I wrote the first article about Greg when he came out. I remember Fitness RX magazine called me up and said, "Hey, there's this new guy that's coming out of the Naval Academy who is just, he's unbelievable." I'm like, "Come on, man. Talking to me. Show me this guy." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. Him, David Kimmerly, this is when it's almost like the draft class of 2007 that's going into the Hall of Fame now. Yeah. These guys, there was a crop of these guys coming out at that time, and I was kind of on the tail end of I'm not on the tail, I'm still doing it now. Yeah. But I was like, whoa, there's some dudes coming up here. And Greg, he always talked about the dash in the middle, right? And the guy's left a lasting impact on so many people to the point where you've tattooed your body with something so basic as tick, 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 3 a.m. And I know the video with the backlit, all dark and eerie. And Greg had a way with his words. And I'm happy that that's an influence in your life, because there's really not many better influences than him.
Yeah.
So hats off to Greg Plitt, an homage to you, my brother, and all of the people that you've impacted. And yeah, so there's a whole story there as well. But anyway, how can people get a hold of you to follow you on Instagram? Because I'm not one of these guys who sees anyone as competition, because there's enough people out there that need our services. So if you're interested in working with Luis, he's available, and he's going to tell you right now how to get a hold of him.
Absolutely. So it's Instagram. All my social media is at Luis Montoya Fit. Same thing with my website. And I'm mainly on Instagram for the most part.
You have a great Instagram profile, by the way. I don't like too many pages that much. But the thing that I like about your stuff, and the reason you should follow Luis on there, is he's authentic. He's real. He's not trying to be Greg Plitt. There are influences of people in all of our lives, as there should be, right? Because that's the whole purpose behind influencers. But I love your thoughts, the way you deliver them, the way you deliver them. Matter of fact, it's a lot like me in the sense that you're not trying to impress people, and you're not trying to not piss people off. You're just saying what it is that you're feeling in that moment. Even the times when you have admitted, maybe I shouldn't have said that. No, you needed to say that, but maybe you just haven't elevated yourself to that point yet where you could really connect with that message, and it kind of rubbed you a little bit wrong. But you know, and sometimes we are wrong too.
Absolutely. You said something super strong, something powerful. You know, I'm not trying to be Greg. I think people should look at, you should have some type of inspiration, people that you want to be like, you know, the same thing, mentorships, you know, like mentors are so important. Like for me, at an early age, I started, you know, this is what financially changed my life, hiring mentors. You know, that's what scaled my business to 6, almost 7 figures now. Having mentors, because when you're trying to find these people, whether it's, you know, in finances, in business, or fitness, or in life, you should always tell people, find people who are living the type of life that you want to live, right? And follow their steps. Success leaves clues, right? And it's in every area. And I've done that for everything. You know, I've done that in my faith. You know, for my faith, like I look at Ed Milet. Ed Milet is a business guy, but he's always talking about God. He's a very masculine guy, you know? Take little bits and pieces of people. You mentioned Andrew Tate. For me, it's a masculinity thing. Like, hey, you know, stop crying about your situation. Get to the gym. Get to work. I know a lot of people don't, you know, resonate with a lot of his messages, but I do understand that a lot of it is to bring back that empowerment of like, hey, you should be the leader. You should be the provider. You should, you know, be a man. Like, you know, God gave you a duty. Your duty is to take care of your people. You get what I'm saying? So take that. Like for you, I look at you as a huge inspiration. You know, you said you're 60.
Yeah, a couple of days. Yeah.
Jeez, that's incredible. See, when I think about that, I'm like, if I were to meet you for the first time, I would probably think you're like 53, maybe, you know, maybe 50. Like you're in better shape than me. You're in better shape than a lot of other guys in their 40s, 30s. You get what I'm saying? So when I see you, and I've thought about this even like when I used to look at you in, you know, in YouTube, I see that as inspiration. Like if I can look half as good as you look at your age, man, I'm winning. You know what I'm saying? So it's not about competition, and you know, it's about finding people that have an impact, a positive impact in your life, and embracing that and making it your own.
Yeah. Have you hired Wes Watson as one of your coaches? I kind of have a feing that'd be one of your guys you'd go to.
No, you know what? I've actually been lucky enough to be mentored by a lot of amazing people. Wes is amazing. I've, you know, shout out to my mentors in business. Brian Carter. He literally changed my life. He's the one who got me out of personal training and got me to scale my online business. Be Fit Mark, and Josh Mooney in the UK, old school, you know, fitness model. They've been a huge impact in my life, financially, you know, mentally, spiritually, everything, you know? But Wes, I've been wanting to kind of link up with Wes.
I had a feeling that there was some thing there with you.
No, for sure. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that follow him, and, you know, I think for a lot of the times, you know, I'm waiting for the right moment. For me, like I coach coaches as well on how to scale their business. And the way that I've approached my career, my fitness, my mentality is I try to pick the best and the best of the best to learn from and put my own twist into it and deliver my own product to be able to help people. I did that with my coaching. I hired the best, physique, IFBB pro coaches in the industry. Then I put my own twist to it, everything that I learned. And I mean, I can take anybody, guy, girl, any age, different, obviously lifestyles and things like that, and transform them. Because, you have to understand that, it's not a one size fits all.
No, definitely isn't.
Yeah, but mentorship is crucial to your success.
Yeah. So listen, if you are looking for a mentor in fitness and finances and life, they're out there. I'm one. Luis is one. You choose the person that is going to resonate best with you, because it's about sustainability. It's about connection. And it's about having the conversations that aren't necessarily about the treadmill and whitefish and asparagus. It's about what you're really doing in life. And I'll go back to my 5 principles, my lifestyle principles that I teach my guys: mindset, meals, movement, community, and integrity. How are you living your life? And if you put those things together, it will lead you down a direction that you probably cannot get on your own. So it's at Luis Montoya Fit, all of his social media. Make sure you go follow him. Anything you want to say in closing?
I just want to thank you, man. I want to thank you for sharing this platform with me and giving me an opportunity to share my story. You're a huge inspiration to me and to a lot of people, like not just in our community, but worldwide, man. And I don't know if you realize the impact that you have in other people, man, but it's powerful. So, God bless, and, just keep doing what you're doing, man.
I appreciate it, my brother.
Yep.
Well, that's it for today. As always, get busy living and make it a great day. Boom!